let's roll into our talk. Buzzed and bruised, when plant damage isn't a bad thing. So right now, you'll see behind us, we're at the end of the perennial border. That beautiful shot that Blake gave us to open out with, you saw a bunch of things flying around. And this is a beautiful place, but not everything in the perennial border looks perfect. If you look closely, there might be some stuff chewed, might be some stuff browning, might be some stuff where it's curled up. And so today we're gonna talk about why that happens and maybe why that's not a bad thing. So I'm joined today by Greg Paige, Director of Horticulture, and Tim Alderton, Head of Gardening. I never remember your exact title.
That's a good, I like Gardener. That one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That'll work today. Thank you, Evan. Always nice to have you here, substituting and sharing your wit and your knowledge with us. I think we'll keep you around for
no substitute for Blake, really.
No, those are deep pockets, big shoes to fill. But he is with us behind the camera.
In spirit.
Always in spirit. What we want to talk about today is what Evan kind of set up, and kind of in the theme of sustainable landscape management, managing for the greater good of an ecosystem. And this is a good time to talk about it. This is kind of the dog days of summer. Things are starting to get kind of shaggy, kind of hairy. It's been a long summer. It was hot. It cooled off.
Yeah, we're being blessed with that right now.
It got dry again. So leaves are starting to abscise. There's bugs that are feeding on things.
Sorry, what does abscise mean?
Getting rid of, dropping. They're
shedding.
They're cutting their losses.
Thank you.
I like using big words now and again. It makes me appear to be smart, as do these glasses. But so things are a little bit shaggy. It's that time of the year.
It's totally normal.
Totally normal. And we have a lot of beneficial insects here. We err on the side of caution when we're treating for insects and diseases. We have a bigger threshold of tolerance for things getting chewed, things looking brown. And what we want to talk about today are some examples of where that's not necessarily a bad thing. When you've got insects in a garden, that's a sign of a healthy ecosystem. We will treat some things that are really bad. We've got a program for our crepe myrtles right now. On occasion, we'll treat some of our other insect pests, but not very often.
Adworms.
We try to let Mother Nature kind of take the best course, and if things get to a level that surpasses our tolerance, then we'll think about treating, and we'll use more ecological methods that are safer for us and safer for all the other insects that we talk about. So we have a whole host of things here that we want to point out. Kind of the thing that was inspiration for this, and one of our interns brought this up, was this guy that Tim's going to talk about that has always been a favorite of mine.
So I'm actually going to skip that for right now. I'm going to
you go.
So
your heart goes.
At this time of the year, you hear about monarchs and school kids going back to school. Whenever I was growing up, we would see monarchs everywhere, and they're in peril. And some of the things that we've done in our landscapes nowadays have kind of added to that fact that they're in peril, because we decided to control things a little excessively, using chemicals to kill the host plant, the primary host plant of the monarchs in particular. And I have a picture, I think, of both the caterpillar and an adult there. But I was recently home to Western Pennsylvania, and at my church back home, there's some patches of milkweed that have gotten established. And my dad and the people, there was a thing going on, and the people were all complaining there's flies and wasps on their milkweed outside the door, actually. And they were worried about them. And I said, no, it's really not bad. What they were there for, there was actually aphids underneath that milkweed leaves, and they were secreting things. There was a whole little ecosystem going on right there. And that's something we don't always think about. And we do see, there's bugs on this, we have to spray. And it's like, no, you don't have to, because you're going to do more damage. You may do more damage, just depends. But another one that we have that issue with here at the garden is this pipevine. Earlier in the summer, sometimes the whole plants will get eaten. Right now we have a really good crop of pipevine swallowtail, or pipevines growing in our geophyte border, which are pipevine swallowtails in the area, like to devour. And we have a caterpillar here.
Gorgeous caterpillar.
Oh yeah, and there's actually some eggs. I don't know if Blake can get the eggs or not. They're orange, and but really cool. But people would worry that, oh, you have worms eating your plants. It's like, yeah, we know. I started with one pipevine 15 years ago. I now have hundreds. This is a species that really cohabitates with the pipevine, and it's a mutualistic association. And I just find it really cool because this pipevine also imbibes this insect with some bad taste for the birds. And so the larvae of this are pretty darn safe from bird damage. Some other insects will go for them. But also the fact that the adults are a bit bad tasting as well. So birds avoid them. We have other butterflies that mimic or have been selected for inadvertently to look similar to this pipevine swallowtail because of that worry by the predators that this might not be my best snack to have today.
Best to leave
and
it alone.
So there's a couple other species of swallowtails that look very similar to the pipevine swallowtail, as well as red-spotted purples, for instance. And I just find that whole thing, that whole connection, really cool to me, and something that we should all learn about, and not worry so much about what's going on at this scale of a few eaten leaves, because you're actually helping out these other critters at the same time.
So this is the second or third generation that you've had. They completely defoliate the vines.
I've seen butterflies of these as early as late February, early March on a mild winter.
Mm-hmm.
If the pipevine gets going, they'll start to eat it then. They overwinter as a chrysalis, and then they come out and as adults and start laying eggs. And then we get multiple generations through the summer months. And literally they will eat it to nothing at times, and it fills back in. And this is a great plant. I'm not gonna mention too many specific species for Evan's sake on plants to use in your landscape, but this is one, Aristolochia fimbriata. A lot of our native pipevines are a little bit more challenging to use. They're not either the prettiest, or they get way bigger than you want to fit in your own landscape. So this one is a great mingler. It doesn't really vine. It just kind of creeps among other things and fills in voids. So it's a great one to fit into your landscape, even though it is native to Brazil and not North America. It's a great one, a host plant for a native species.
I think he knows he's on camera. He's behaving very well.
And the eggs are just staying right where they're put to.
Of course.
Yeah. They're not running away.
Nope. Let me talk about this guy.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of red buds here. We have a APGA Plant Collection Network certified collection, and one of them is our red bud collection. A lot of breeding work done. And this is something that I've always seen on red buds. I'll try to keep it still so you can get a good look at that. You see these little, these crescent-shaped notches in the leaf, and this is a pretty common thing to see. It kind of tatters the leaf. This is actually done by a solitary bee that will cut these little notches out, and then they'll use those little pieces of leaf to form these little cells in the ground to lay their eggs in. They don't feed on this. They use it as a structure to build their nests in the ground. So some people might see that and think that, that looks bad, or that's something that you need to treat, but it absolutely is not. This isn't going to cause the trees any damage at all. Aesthetically, it doesn't look terrible, but I like the story that it tells, and most people would look at that and think that it was done by a caterpillar or something else, but it's actually being done by a pollinator that's using it to build an actual structure in the ground where it lays its eggs. Doesn't cause any damage, just kind of an interesting thing, and you'll see some leaves are more eaten than others. Another thing that we come across on red buds, and this has already come apart, you will see where leaves have been kind of joined together, and this is done by a caterpillar. I don't think anybody's home here. It's kind of late. But it's kind of a leaf miner, and you can see where it skeletonized that leaf. All that black debris in there, I'll leave that to your imagination what that might be. It's the waste as it feeds. So it'll live its whole life protected. It takes a little bit of webbing, and we'll sew that together so that it's protected from predators and the environment. It'll feed, It'll form a chrysalis in there, and I think it's a moth, but that's not very detrimental to the plant. You can see here some other leaves that are grown together, and that bit of skeletonization. And here's kind of a better example of that here on this leaf. And with a threshold of tolerance, allowing that to a small degree, that's not going to cause any health problems for the tree. If that gets to a point where it's really, really bad, it's on younger trees or it's in a nursery, we might do something to treat that with. Sometimes you can just cut those leaves off. That gets rid of that insect's life cycle. Because this is a caterpillar, there are safer products that you can use, and we'll talk about those later on in the talk here. But these are just two really common ones that we have with red buds, and it's mostly aesthetic. It's not going to hurt the plant at all.
So in the preview, we were showing you some pictures of a caterpillar on a passion flower, as well as a carpenter bee that had been going after my other passion flower. But behind us, there's the actual plants, and in front of us, there's the other plant, actually. So something that actually is probably not a bad thing to have is you get some minor trimming by Gulf fritillaries use passion flowers as their, and yeah, it's here's the cover of an adult, and we had a couple of them floating around here earlier. I did have a caterpillar somewhere here, but I've lost it. But it's not a detrimental species to the passion flower by any means. And if you really had a lot of it, it would be a good thing, I think, because they are vigorous plants when they are happy. But they turn into spectacular butterflies as well. So it's the Gulf fritillary. And the really cool thing about those is there's a whole other, like I said, with the pipevine, there's a whole collection of things that kind of goes along with those on the passion flower itself. There's nectaries that on the plant that the ants kind of go for, but they also look like eggs. So it kind of, the butterfly doesn't put too many eggs on one plant, more or less. It kind of has its population control built in.
Regulatory system.
And it's just, there's all kinds of little things that the ecology of that whole thing that I find so fascinating. And that's one reason I really like passion flowers, but there's even way more to the story. And as you saw earlier, not necessarily butterflies, but the carpenter bees and bumblebees adore the flowers. When I first put these here on the table, we had the one come and visit, and actually I don't know if they can be seen behind us, but they are all over, I'm sure, the inspiration passion flower that we have right behind us. They go underneath the stamens, which are right next to the pistils, because there's nectaries right underneath there, and they are harvesting the nectar there, but inadvertently they are pollinating that passion flower. And it's just a whole cool symbiotic relationship, I guess you'd say, or mutualistic relationship that has been developed between those as well, to make sure that there is fertilization in there. So it's just, there's just so many different levels.
Who would think that so much is going on when you're just walking past these plants in the garden, that there's all this activity at this level? And
this is just one, a couple levels of it. There's other things you may find that you have other insects, not necessarily caterpillars on your plants. But as I was down in the nursery with Sophia earlier, and there were some true bugs, and she asked me, "Oh, what is this?" And I said, "It's a type of leaf-footed bug. They're predatory."
They eat other
bugs,
insects,
so they are great to have on there. But if you didn't realize that, you might think, "Do I need to spray this to control that?" And we have that going on. And if you get things out of sync, I guess you say, or out of balance, it's more problematic. And so if we are avoiding doing anything terribly detrimental, it's not a bad thing.
Nope.
So,
threshold of tolerance.
Yes, threshold of tolerance again. There are some things that we have that aren't terribly, we don't have high thresholds for. We have cannas in the garden, and you probably all have cannas if you're here in North Carolina. And if you have them for a while, like we've had them in the garden for decades, we get canna leaf roller.
Jump out.
And actually there's a bunch of them here. There's little ones and there's big ones. I don't know if
you got that?
You can see that?
Okay.
So this is a lesser canna leaf roller, which is a kind of moth. There's also a greater roller, which is a butterfly. It's a type of skipper. I've not seen those that I know of offhand in the garden, but we always have these lesser ones. They do make my cannas look terrible.
I think we have the greater on the one that's in the Cascade, because that's much bigger.
Okay. They're on the water canna, which is actually not directly related to the canna, but has a very similar morphology, and they do go after that. But both species are non-native, so I really don't. Those are ones that, if you might want to treat of some sort, whether by mechanical treatment or
just cutting them off, or spraying them with something that's kind of low impact.
Yes,
and every once in a while we'll do that, but not real often. And you can see, this is some of the damage that they cause. Again, it's kind of like a skeletonizer. It's feeding on those cells, and
they sew the leaves together.
And
they don't open.
And you can see, I don't know if you can get that, Blake, just the little threads there on the edge. And all that's kind of a little safe, self-contained chamber for them to feed. They'll also form chrysalises all inside of there.
It protects them from bird or
all of that
to get them too. So,
and again, there's a bunch of little ones in here, but all that black is the droppings. Somebody described these wet, slimy. Was it Dennis that was talking about these or something?
Could be. You can see like right through those. Those are clear.
Somebody was talking about, you can like see all
what they've eaten,
all their inner workings there. They're quite disgusting. We typically will cut these off to get rid of them and eliminate that life cycle. If they get really terrible, we'll treat them with something that's low impact. But this is another threshold of tolerance thing. It's aesthetic more than actually going to harm the plant itself.
And the thing with having some of these around, it's actually not the end of the world, because you might think it could be, but bees and wasps actually predate on a lot of caterpillars. And I mean, whether they're good caterpillars or bad caterpillars. And didn't you say
that's a good segue to this guy.
This one here.
So this is fall webworm, and there's lots of things that this guy will feed on. They like hickories, they like sourwoods. This is
Pterocaria, which is a hickory relative.
Pterocaria. I don't know if you can see these, Blake. I'm going to tear into the web. So they form these webs that protect themselves, and usually they're in the canopy of a tree.
I can see them in there.
Yeah, they're little bitty guys. I don't know if you can just kind of zoom in there and you can see them kind of moving around a little bit. Again, this is an aesthetical pest. It's not going to kill the tree. It's not going to harm it too terribly. It's going to do this.
They're fall webworms, so they're in the fall. So most of the growing has happened on the plant, and the plant's already somewhat the foliage is going in decline for the season anyways.
Exactly. So, we will cut the branches off if they're too kind of unsightly. I went to get a sample of this for today's talk, and there were wasps all over, a smaller one that was close to the ground, and they had gone inside and eaten all the larvae that were in there. There was nobody left at home. So there is that side of this too. There's insects that feed on these insects. Birds will rip these open and pull them out. Birds will eat other these insects that we talk about today. But again, it's that threshold of tolerance. This is not something I would ever tell somebody to spray or treat with an insecticide. If you absolutely can't tolerate it, prune them out and get rid of this. I had somebody ask me one time if they could take care of these with fire. They were taking hairspray and spraying it, and with a lighter, burning them. I'll let you do the math on that. Fire and plant tissue, not a good mix, despite how enjoyable that must have been to the person that was doing that. The easy way is rip the nest up so birds can get in there, or just simply prune this off.
Right now, birds are starting to migrate south. A lot of our migratory songbirds that winter in the tropics, like warblers and stuff, they would find that delectable to get into. And whenever we do spray anything, whether it is for a caterpillar or another smaller insect or whatever, the birds are losing out in reality. And that's another thing that that ecosystem that we don't always think about.
That fragile balance.
It's often better to do a little less and not harm, not inhibit other things that could be beneficial.
Unnecessarily.
And unnecessary is right.
So this is from our weeping walk. This is mimosa, and it gets a mimosa webworm every year. And last year, the whole entire tree got kind of defoliated. But again, this is the end of its growing season. This is the last plant to leaf out and the first plant to drop its leaves in the fall. So our tolerance for that has been very, very high. This is a path that goes up right when you first get into the garden. So this year I decided to treat it to get it under control so that it doesn't lose all of its leaves kind of prematurely. And the reason I decided to do that was to kind of check the balance of this having a high population. So it'll be back next year, probably not as bad, and we probably won't do anything to it. The following year, probably the same thing. This isn't something that we're going to treat every year because it's not worth our time, and it's not hurting the plant. It's coming in the late part of the season, but it is something that you see a lot, particularly on this plant. And again, if you see it early enough when those are feeding, just pruning it off and getting rid of it is going to go a long way to help kind of control and curb that population.
So just a fun one that I have a picture of on there. It's the sulfur, which just actually no, that wasn't. That was a fritillary of some sort. But I have had sulfurs. There's a cabbage white, which is closely related to sulfurs. Just flew by. Anyways, they feed on things in the bean family, and in one particular species or genus is Senna. And this is Senna, either Marylandic or Hebecarpa, I don't know. I collected it along at one point, and I have it out in our trial beds. But the caterpillars are gigantic. I have a couple on this little sprig here, but I can't even see them right now. But I have a really cool blown up picture. The butterflies are beautiful yellow butterflies, and as sulfur kind of tells you that. And they're late summer and fall most of the time. But the caterpillars are this spectacular. If you get a magnifying glass out or blow it up with a picture, I didn't realize, I thought they were pure green when I first took the picture, and that was in 2020. And then I blew it up and I realized it's this spectacular blue and yellow.
Iridescent
colors on there. It's really cool, but it's something you wouldn't think about seeing. It does. The year I planted these Senna, they ate them to nothing. Now I have these 8-foot tall plants, which are a little excessive, but it didn't faze them. I knew that they were one of the host species, and we have them. You can use them in your garden, and you might have. You can totally ignore it. So, and it'll grow, and those caterpillars will eat it, and you're going to get some really cool butterflies. But I just love the caterpillar, the butterflies you see, but the caterpillar I had never noticed. And the ones on here, it's like, I showed them to you. How big, the one was like it was smaller than the grain of rice.
Yeah, they're tiny.
And green, and I can't see them.
They're hiding
right
from
now.
the sun.
Yeah, and this is starting to dehydrate already, but it's just, again, looking at that smaller world, the things we take for granted. But then this one here, this is an example for our one. We don't have any butter or caterpillars on this one, but this goes back to our our Pipevine Swallowtails. This is fennel.
Also wanted to brought this to talk about planting things specifically for insects to eat. And fennel is something that is voracious.
Parsley is the other thing.
Parsley is another one that's good for insects to eat. I know a lot of people that will plant things in their garden specifically for that. This has the pollinators will get it, and there's a whole host of insects that eat the foliage.
Yeah, and the key one though is the black swallowtail,
yes,
which actually is one of those mimics I said about the Pipevine Swallowtail in reality, and it's just a great one to have. And kids it's one that you can teach kids about reliably.
The smell
and
too.
I like to eat the flower buds and the seeds. They taste like licorice.
Those caterpillars get really fat too. It's really funny to see them crawling up those stems because it's like a magic trick. It's like they're so big, I don't know how. And then they get to the end, and then it droops.
But yeah, that's one. And then you have that one over there. Speaking of big caterpillars, these are babies, and I didn't get that picture to you. I had a really cool picture.
This is another second generation. I think you can see this guy here, this bigger one. So this is a catalpa hornworm.
You actually did get that picture.
I did. Holy cow! I don't know what that's from.
Is that the eggs?
I don't think it's catalpa eggs.
Okay.
This is growing on this is a catalpa, isn't it?
This is a catalpa, yeah.
Yes.
This is a hybrid between a catalpa and a chalopsis.
Yes. So this is a sentimental one for me. This is a really good story from when I worked for Bartlett Tree. Mr. Bartlett's father planted these at every pond on the property so that he always had something for fish bait. And they kept all those there because of that. And every year they would get completely defoliated by these guys, and they get quite big. This is at least the second generation of these. Completely defoliated it. It's come right back. Again, for that story, and this is also something that birds will eat. Mm-hmm. I've seen yellow jackets harvesting these. I've seen wasps harvesting these. They support that food web. So there's more eggs there.
Yeah.
We're not gonna treat this with something. If we were growing this for a production standpoint and wanted them to look nice, that's a whole different thing. But I don't know if you can see the end, this little horn. It looks worse than it is, but it's mostly visual.
It's related to the tobacco or tomato hornworm.
Yes, it's a scare tactic.
Yeah.
You don't want to. It makes you not want to touch them, and same for predators. But I was glad to see that we saw these. I've got really good pictures of these that I've taken, but a nice kind of horticultural story that I carry with me.
For me, this will often cause, for the catalpa, if they eat it, it often causes it to flower again.
Yes.
So and you can almost time it, within a couple of weeks of them being eaten, it'll reflower if it doesn't get eaten again in the meantime. But,
right.
But it's actually more of a pruning to it than
really,
anything.
It really
doesn't
is.
hurt them that much.
And to me, it's always not been the nicest looking tree.
It's an awkward tree, is right.
But catalpa in general usually have lots of leaves, and they can spare a branch or two of these if you have a catalpa in your yard. And if you do, more than likely you're going to have this guy there.
And which one is this?
Catalpa hornworm?
No, what plant is this?
Oh, this is Chalopsis, or Chatelpa,
Yeah.
Chatelpa and something cloud.
Is it Tom's?
It's that.
That's El Nino.
Chatelpa. It's not El Nino. This is not El Nino, but El Nino got eaten up too. I was thinking it might not, and it did.
It did.
So it didn't last year, but this year they found it.
Yep. So that's all that we had for show and tell. I want to encourage people just to have a different perspective when you're looking at the garden for some of these things. Right now is a great time to come to the garden and see hummingbirds, but an even better time to see butterflies. Just setting up this before we opened up to you guys, you needed an air traffic controller in here to handle the flight patterns of all the butterflies that were zipping in and out. It slowed down a little bit because it's getting a little bit warmer, but just to give the garden a different perspective when you're looking around at this level of life. And it's something that we think about when we're planting and taking care of things.
And it's not, like I said, it's not just butterflies that we see. There's a whole other, there's countless other things in that web that it's kind of important for us to take an account of and not be overzealous about making a sterile environment.
Correct.
It's better to have some diversity there.
Always.
Whether a little bit of it is does take away, and it not just necessarily. At this time of the year, we have a buildup of insects, but also plants are just starting. They might look a little sad at this time of the year, just because it's this time of the year. The leaves are getting older,
days are getting shorter.
So the plants are transitioning into another time in their life.
Yep.
They're maturing their seeds. The leaves are not being replaced as quickly, if at all, and so they tend to break down. So it should be a less worrying time of year.
It should.
Than some of us. People get hyper sensitive and think, oh my goodness, there's a brown spot on my leaf. It's probably not anything to worry about at this time of the year.
It's the fall, y'all. That's supposed to happen. That's supposed to happen.
Well said. Well said. So we're going to get into a few questions here now that we have some time. I'm going to start with one of my own, which is, Greg, what are those books?
Man,
You can't just bring a prop out
You
here
are the
and not.
king.
I'm the one
You
who
are the-
collected
about
them.
it.
you are the king of segues. And Tim brought them this time.
I don't even know why.
I'm usually pretty good about doing that. So these are some good references. We always like to give references. This is Johnson and Lyons, insects that feed on trees and shrubs. This is what I used in college for some of my IPM classes. This is a really, really good resource. Yeah, yeah. Joe Neal, who you might know is an NC State professor. He helped with weeds of the Northeast, which is a part of this series. There's also a disease of trees and shrubs, which is a companion to this, also by Sinclair, Lyons, and Johnson. Really, really good reference books. If you are a book file like I am, this I have in my office, and I refer to it frequently. I'll crack it open really quick so you can kind of see how it's set up. It's got pictures of different stages of the insects. It's got different stages of death and destruction that they cause, but a really, really good resource. Always one that I recommend to people. A newer one is Garden Insects of North America, Whitney Cranshaw. This is also a really good reference book that has lots of good pictures and information. Again, different life stages of insects, the type of damage they do, and lots of reference material on them. I don't think this has treatments per se. The Johnson and Lyons book does have some of that in it, but another good reference.
The first part of treatment, though, is knowing what you have.
Right,
And that's
identifying.
So many people don't know what they have, and they just try to use a shotgun effect or a way of doing it.
That's a good point.
And it's not always the best thing to do.
That's a good point. Eric Gristle, Insects and Gardens, connects the garden side of things with the bugs and where you're going to see them. This has great photographs in it. We don't have to deal with this particular insect, but it would be cool to have them rolling around the garden. But and I think he's got a newer book that's out that I have at home. But we like to bring references. Thank you for
Absolutely. Reference material is a very powerful
if you don't have
resource.
books, I've been starting to use iNaturalist a little bit, and for native things or things in the wild, I find it useful. I've been finding it useful. You may get things limited down to a couple different things to look into if you delve into that. So you can get a picture of something and you can upload it, and it'll often give you a pretty good idea of what it might be or something that it's closely related to, which could be a great starting point. And then you can dig further and find out, yes, this is that, and not this. And just as a first level.
That's a good one.
But also our extension is really good. And today, again, taking those photos, and you can often send it to our extension agents and to our entomologists here at NC State, and they can often get you a really good ID on things. So through the photos.
Our extension is a very, very good resource.
Very good. I would like to add one thing of my own to this conversation, one piece of information, which is that when plants are damaged, they release chemicals into the air. And so this happens in a lot of ways, but it's hard to picture sometimes, but basically there's chemicals floating all throughout the air, and some insects can pick up on a very minute amount of them. And so if something is eating that or skeletonizing that leaf, and it's like, oh, that's ugly, actually leaving that can be a good thing because it invites those predators in. It invites those beneficial parasites that say, it's like an evolution thing where, oh, I know this plant is being damaged, so I know that there's something eating it, and I eat that thing.
Yes, there's food nearby, prey.
Exactly. I'm going to come over to their house and eat that.
Good hunting grounds.
Exactly. Okay, let's get into some questions. Dorothy asked, use the term low impact, and can you give some examples? And I believe that was in reference to
treatment.
I mean, water could be low impact, for instance, for knocking off, say, aphid infestation.
So we don't like to recommend treatments, but something that has been used in the past. This is a product called BT. It's a naturally occurring fungus, I believe, that only affects caterpillars. So this won't hurt aphids, this won't hurt ladybugs, this won't hurt pollinators. This is used to treat caterpillars. It's also very safe for the applicator. So it's a very low impact thing to treat with. Some of the horticultural oils and some of the horticultural soaps, I steer people away from home remedies just because there's a thing called a insecticidal soap. Doesn't mean you can mix your own with dish soap. A lot of times you can cause damage to yourself and plants with those sorts of things. They're specifically trialed and used to treat for problems. So not something that we recommend, something that we've used in the past. You can get this information from the Extension Service also, but that's the first place that we go when we're going to treat for something is let's look at options that are going to be safe for us to use, safe for visitors, and safe for that web that Tim has talked about and all the other sorts of things.
You treat on a minimalistic space. You don't go spray everything.
Right.
It's very targeted. This plant has an infection and this chemical or this bacteria in this case may be a treatment for it. And I only put it on that plant.
I mentioned treating the mimosa. That one is where every visitor that comes in the garden is going to walk by. That was some of the impetus to treat that too. We've got other ones that we're not going to bother treating.
So basically, the more specific your treatment, the less impact you're having on the food web overall.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good. The next question, Sophia asked, do exotic trees such as glory bower, princess tree, and the tree of heaven serve as useful host plants?
Do they?
I mean, at least for pollen sources.
Yeah.
I mean, they have their place. They may not be the most ideal plant.
Yeah. Not things that I would recommend planting either. They're all pretty voracious.
Clerodendron likes to sucker everywhere. Though it doesn't self-sow like Paulownia.
Paulownia's a terrible weed.
And what was, did you say Tree of Heaven?
Yes.
Yeah. Tree of Heaven, is that one of the hosts they're finding for?
So there's a really bad insect.
The lanternflies.
Yes, the lanternfly. And one of its main food sources is Ailanthus tree of heaven. That doesn't mean that it should be planted to attract them. It's just something that they definitely feed on. You know, I hate to recommend that as something to put in your garden to bring pollinators.
I wouldn't use that tree. I grew up with that being it spreads vegetatively as well as by seed, and it can become a monoculture and take over a large expansive area.
It's very well suited to urban environments and runoff of fertilizers and all those things. Chef does not recommend.
Yes. Right. So there's a clear distinction, or hopefully, between exotic and invasive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next question. Sophia also asks, why might you get caterpillars one year but not in following years?
So I had that problem actually in the geophyte border where I have the pipevine. I cleaned up a little too much too early, and I more or less wiped out my population of pipevine until a later colonization occurred. You can be too cleanly, and again, I've tried to not do that anymore.
Weather can be a factor.
Will do it. Yes.
You can have a really cold winter that kills there's a lot of insect kill, bad insects and the good ones. You can have a drought where they just desiccate and don't have enough food to sustain themselves. All those things are factors that affect
it's that whole ecosystem. You may have sprayed something
that out of balance, or a neighbor may have sprayed something, or all those things cause problems. I had a neighbor in Charlotte that treated for mosquitoes in his yard and then complained why he didn't see any lightning bugs in his garden anymore. Well, that's
any of those gas.
That's
fumigations.
why.
Those are non-discriminate.
Very broad spectrum.
What they do, and then they're food for our birds, and like you said, also for the fireflies.
Okay, Lori asks, are small black ants detrimental to plants in raised beds? They love to build mounds in my pine straw.
I don't know about detrimental.
They don't hurt the plants. They're very opportunistic.
Yes.
They're going to build where it's easy to establish mounds and nests. They're also going to build where they are probably avoiding fire ants, which are very competitive with native ants and other ants. A lot of it is the convenience of that raised bed, that loose soil medium. They like that decayed matter from pine needles in particular. They're not going to hurt your plants. They're not.
I mean, they sometimes I do have them.
If it's too much soil,
they'll actually farm some other insects.
Yeah.
I will have that happen in the garden, sucking insects like scales and aphids and mealybug. They will often farm those so they can get the honeydew that is excreted from them.
Right, like cows.
So, it's like
exactly.
cattle, and they will move things around.
Exactly.
But for me in the garden, we have what are probably Argentinian ants, which aren't necessarily from Argentina. They're not quite sure.
Yeah.
It's naturalized all over the place, but I'd much rather have them than fire ants.
Yeah.
And where you have Argentinian ants, they typically outcompete the fire ants. So
Yeah.
there's pluses and minuses.
Yeah, there are.
And there's going to be, if you got rid of those ants, you'd probably have something else come in their in their way.
Ants are a very beneficial insect in a garden because they break down organic matter.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they eat other insects. So they're not necessarily a bad thing. Imported fire ants, that's a whole different story. That's a whole different talk.
Peonies, for instance, in the spring, you'll see people have them. There's ants in my peonies. The plants are actually, and I have them, I get them on this cassia, or this senna I have here. There's nectaries on them, and they're in the passion flowers because they secrete sugars, and the plants are kind of bribing them.
Yeah.
So
I'll give you this if you help pollinate me.
Or I'll give you this
me.
if you take the eggs of this other insect off of me and eat. It's a protective thing. So there's that, again, that whole other little ecosystem. And if we're overzealous, you may lose that. So
Yeah, the one and only thing I would do that Greg mentioned is that if it's building up around the base of a plant. Did you already say that, Tim?
No,
you did. You started to say that.
I started.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Carol asks, what are your thoughts on neem?
All right.
I've never used it.
I don't like it because I can't stand the smell of it. There's a misconception that neem is the cure-all for all garden ills, insects, diseases. I've even heard people tell me that it helps fertilize. It doesn't help fertilize. That's where getting resources on things. I had somebody email me about some disease problems they're having with azaleas. And they said they went to Lowe's, and Lowe's told them to spray neem on their plants. I don't think that's going to do anything. That's not to say that it's not an effective control for some things, but you need to do your research on what the pest is, what's the best way to control it, what's the best timing to control that, and what are the best products to use. And if you want to do low impact things, then look at things like neem, horticultural soaps, horticultural oils, the BTs of the world, and other things.
Simple
like
water,
the pressure of knocking off, disturbing, or culturally just pruning things off. But personally, it's never been something that I like to use because when I have used it, the control was not that effective, and I hate the way it smells. It just does something to the back of my throat.
There's your answer.
There's my answer.
And then last question, Anne asks, how do plants photosynthesize after they have been stripped?
I mean, some of them, the stems will sometimes be photosynthetic still, not always, as well as the plant will start to actually regrow from stored energy that in the system. Think of like in the early in the season, there's a lot of stored energy in that plant and the tissue, and it's able to regenerate from that. Unless the plant is totally decimated, even in the root system, there's a chance that it can come back. But
and this has been completely defoliated.
Yes,
and all this is new growth. And this is a plant that can handle that stress better than other things. If this were your favorite Japanese maple, that's where the threshold of tolerance is different. That's where you might want to consider some sort of treatment. Also, time of the year.
That's what I was going to say. The seasonality.
If this was early spring and this was your prized Japanese maple, yes, it's going to flush back out, but that's going to stress that plant out and use reserves that it might need to get through a dry summer, an overly wet summer, a cold winter, a warm winter. Those are all kinds of things to think about. Catalpas and related, they can handle that flush of getting kind of chewed up a little bit. They've evolved with this insect that feeds just on them.
As with the pipevine, which
definitely
totally gets.
I mean, there was not a leaf
They
on
don't
that.
have a stem.
Nothing.
They will eat the seed pods. They will eat the stem down to the ground, and you will see nothing but bare ground, and then it'll start to pop up again.
Yeah.
So,
I think that is a beautiful way to start to wrap this up.
Awesome.
And that is the thought that plants are resilient. You might see some damage and it might be ugly, but if you can convince yourself that it's beautiful in some way, even if that way is just ecological, you'll find maybe a new perspective, because bugs can be used to keep plant populations in check, like that Aristolochia, which might be seeding around the garden way more if it wasn't for the fact that it does get chewed on. And then different plants support different herbivores. So we got to see a lot of beautiful examples today of these awesome looking caterpillars and other things that we didn't show and that are probably not as showy, but these different herbivores, and those different herbivores attract different predators and parasites. And so you've developed in your garden, if you leave it be enough, this complex ecosystem.
It's diverse.
Diverse.
We have that diversity.
We love talking about that at the Arboretum, a diverse
and
planting.
it's fun just to see that in the garden.
It is.
The birds and the hummingbirds and the different insects, the good and the bad. Fire ants, not so good, but other things, it's amazing to be in the garden and be a part of that.
Yeah, it's a great way to teach and to enjoy nature.
Reconnect with nature.
Reconnect with nature, very well put. And then if you have to take action, try the physical treatment first. These low impact treatments are a second option, but if you can prune something or wash it off, that tends to be the least disruptive way of managing these pests.
It's giving your plant a shower.
Yeah, give your plant a shower. So Tim, Greg, thank you guys for your time and knowledge. Thank you, the audience, for coming. And next week, if you'll join us at 3 p.m. next Wednesday, we have falling plants you'll fall for, talking about our fall sale plants. So get excited. Thank you guys so much.